Hey, would you join me in welcoming our online audience? We want to take a minute and say thanks for joining us today, whether you're here or around the world. We know many of you travel and you join us when you can, but you're a part of our extended family. If you haven't been able to join us because of COVID, we understand that, and we love you. We believe in you. We can't wait to see you soon. Grab your Bibles and jump in with us. Take some notes. You can follow on the Bible app, and we'll see you very, very soon. Would you put your hands together one more time for those that are watching? Yeah. You can be seated. I'm glad that's over. I ain't gonna lie. Hey, let me remind you of a couple things. I think there's a few more of these books left that are free of charge. My wife and I bought 400 of these out of our pocket to give to you. It says, don't say blank in church, and it says, don't say money in church because people lose their mind. And so really it's answering one question. If you could answer one question that would change your perspective on money, what would it be? And so that addresses this in this book. I'm not sure how many are left. They're at the Resource Center. They're very, very difficult to get your hands on. One per family. We gave them out last week. If you can get one, you might want to rush out there because I don't know how many are left. Also, this Friday night, we got a men's night. Where are my men at? Come on. 3 of y'all, cool. The rest of y'all ladies. No, we got a men's night. We got a chili cook-off. You can go online, myrelevant.cc, click the QR code on the back of the chair there. Anything you want to sign up for. I think it's like $5 to come and eat, and we're giving away $100 to the winner of the chili cook-off. So, I'm entering a team. I'm just saying. I'm just going to do the tasting. They're going to do the cooking. But no, I'm just saying. So, if you'd like to do that, we'd love to have a dozen teams or more, and we're going to have some time of worship together. We're going to also just hang out, goof off, and encourage one another. Say this with me. Less is more. So we talked about last week. Stress is bad. Say it. So we're talking about this week. It's been a stressful week. Giving is good. Some of y'all are like, no, I ain't giving. All right. Tomorrow matters. So we got this week and 2 more weeks of this series. And the premise behind this is Ecclesiastes chapter number 4, verse number 6 in the Old Testament. It says, better is 1 handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. You guys ever had your hands full and need to open a door? You ever had your hands full and need to scratch your nose? Yeah. It's annoying when you need to do something and you can't do it because your hands are full. And it's very stressful when you can't get out or you can't get the door open and you got your hands full and you can't get the trunk open. And I think if we could just apply this to every area of our life, better is 1 hand full and able to open the door, come on, than 2 hands full and dropping everything. And so the writer of Ecclesiastes equates this to money. He said, if you're not careful, you'll think 1 handful is good and 2 is better. And you'll feel your life so full of chasing stuff and money and resources that you will end up spiraling out of control, chasing after the wind, no ability to actually have freedom in your life. That's what we're tackling. We said less is more, and I told you last week, I already told you this one time today, that the richest people in the world are not the people who have the most, but those that need the least. And so if you live in America and you make above the poverty line in America, you are in the top 4% of the richest people in the world, financially speaking. But we are bankrupt many times when it comes to our joy and our peace. And so, how many of you, just by show of hands, you don't sleep well at night? You like wake up like 19 times? Anybody? Come on. All right. How many of you are like me? Like once you go to sleep, dog, you better hit me with something if you can wake me up. Come on, anybody? Like I try to time my latest bathroom run so I don't have to get up in the middle of the night. Anybody else do that? Try not to drink too much after a certain time so I don't have to get up. And like once I go to sleep, y'all, I'm out. My wife does not like it when weather moves in. You know, we have these tornadoes spinning off from hurricanes and all this kind of stuff. She's panicked, and I'm like, I just put a helmet on me. I'm going to sleep, right? And so, like, that's me. I don't want to get up. But there's one thing. No other nighttime noise wakes me up, but there's one thing, and it always seems to happen at night, that will wake me up. Man, you know what I'm talking about. It's when the smoke detector goes off. Come on, somebody. I heard somebody even over here whisper it, because they know. You know what it's like, because you try to ignore it. It's just going, you're like, come on. It ain't stopping, right? And you think you can sleep through it, but it's one of those things you just can't. You can get used to rain dripping, you can get used to the thunder, but that noise ain't going. So you get up, whatever you sleep in, I don't need to know, and you get up and you go to look for it, right, guys? And no matter which room you're in, it sounds like it's coming from the other room. And then you walk in there and you're like, wait, it's behind me now. Wait, now it's behind me again. You ever been there? Then I got up, true story, got up on the counter and I was taking the thing. I go to take it off and I realized this one's not beeping. And as I'm taking it off, I hear it beep. I'm like, so I finally locate the one that it is, which is 2 rooms over somehow. get a ladder, get up there, and I get it off, and I take the battery out of it. Yes, it still beeps. How is that possible? Somebody explain to me. The Wi-Fi goes down at the worst time, but that thing, no, it's like wireless free, whatever, just beeps. It's called demon possession. So true story, I took it out, laid it on the counter, went to bed. Beep. Are you kidding? So true story, I took it, I opened my front door, and threw it out in my front yard. I went back to bed. Why is it that these two things die in pairs? It's almost like one battery said to the other battery, hey, you want to go dead? And here's a beeping from another one at the same time. It was a Saturday night, and I had to preach on Sunday morning, so I'm moody when I don't get my rest. And so I get up, and I finally find the other one, and I'm thinking to myself, what kind of mean trick, like who infiltrated my house in the middle of the night and took over all the smoke detector? Anybody else ever been there? Torture, okay? That's funny. But what's not funny is many of you have alarms in your head going off every night that keep you awake going, how am I going to pay my bills? When's the next bill coming due? When do I get my next paycheck? Because a vast majority of people in America live paycheck to paycheck. And what I've never heard people say is, ever since I got into debt, my marriage has been so much better. High interest rates make me feel calm, you know. High rates, hot love. No, that's not the way it works. I never hear anybody say, every night when I go to bed, I thank God for my payments, right? You don't hear that. What I hear over and over and over now, for 20 plus years of doing this, I hear people say, I wish I could go on a nice vacation, but I can't. I wish that my wife could stay home with my kids, but it's not possible. I wish I could help someone in need, but right now we just don't have the money. I wish I could honor God with my tithe and above and beyond my tithe, but I'm so financially strapped, I'm scared to death. I wish I didn't have all this stress all the time. For 20 years, Julie and I, or about 16 years, Julie and I have done financial counseling. For the last 5 years, we haven't done it, but for about 10 to 11 years, we did. And we met with hundreds of couples. And it did not matter whether they made $30,000. I've literally counseled couples who had a net worth of $3. Like that's it. That's all they had in their account. And people had net worths of $3 million. And I've counseled everything in between. And what I told you last week, I'll stand by, is this, that more money does not equal less problems. More money magnifies your already dysfunctional issues. Because what I found is whether they got $3 or $3 million, it's the same root that causes the dysfunction, but what happens is it's now magnified with zeros. And so then, write this down, mark it down, whatever. I don't even know if it's on the screen, but I am a firm believer, and I don't say this in a way that is crass or demeaning. I say this because I think many times the education system in America has failed us. Most people have no idea how money works. We got algebra too. And we know how to get the square root of a whatever and slope a line. But we don't know what compound interest is. So I remember sitting down over the last 15 years, I sat down with, like I said, people with $30,000 incomes, and I sat down with two dentists that had a $400,000 income. Same problem. The $400,000 income couldn't make ends meet. Same problem single mom had, making $26,000. Same problems, only magnified. So what I want to do, not in an arrogant way, I want to teach you some things that I've learned about money, about how money works, and I want to draw some spiritual parallels and some biblical parallels to that. Let's look at this chart together. So on this chart, Joe's 25 years old. He just graduated Relevant College. No, just kidding. But if you want to get involved, you can. So Joe's 25 years old, and so he decides, I graduated college. I don't have much credit built up. Come on, because you know how you got to build up credit. No, you don't. And so you got to build up credit. You got to get. They don't have much credit, so he decides he's going to buy a truck. He's 25 years old. He decides he's going to buy a truck. The best interest rate he could get was 12%. I've seen this story over and over. Okay, now let's say it's 6%, whatever. Okay, you can throw in the numbers. 12%. And he got it for 7 years because he couldn't afford it for 5 years because the payment was too much. So let's look at it. He decides to buy a $36,000 truck, all right? $36,000 because he graduated. Give me a graduation present. Add it to my $100,000 in student loan debt. We'll be doing good. All right, now he finances it at 12% payment would be $635.50. Don't speak too loud. There are neighbors around you that have this payment, okay? Or more. At the end of that, if he pays this for 7 years, that truck will end up costing him $53,381 because of compound interest. But that is not the total cost of the truck. First of all, you know how much that truck is now worth 7 years later? 10, 12,000. Okay? So when we talk about debt, we talk about borrowing money for things that depreciate. Let's just get that clear. And it's not easy to talk about, right? Because I know people, I've literally sat down. I can't tell you how many times when I sat down with couples to do financial counseling and help them get out of debt and live a life that honors God but also sets their family tree up. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, I dread going to the mailbox because I don't know what the next bill's coming in. Just waiting on the next collection. Because what we like to do, and I know that when we get in trouble, what we like to do is bury our head, don't we? Didn't happen. Until it happens. So what I'm hoping to do is kind of peel back the mask, peel off the Band-Aid, rip off the scab, and let's all admit that we've all made some kind of mistakes regarding our finances. All of us have. And so we got to pretend like it's not happening. Because we all eventually know, we know that whether we say this or not, deep down in our heart, we've experienced this if we've ever been in a debt, and it's what Proverbs chapter number 22, verse 7 says, the rich rule over the poor. And the borrower is slave to the lender. We know this, don't we? This idea of being a slave is not in a sense of maybe what you think, but it's in chains, in bondage, held captive by. You know what I think is interesting? The previous verse of Proverbs, verse 6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. The borrower is slave to the lender, and the rich rule over the poor. Hello. If we just, Proverbs, 22:6 didn't say, algebra 2 is so functional. You see, like we train kids about all kinds of things, but we don't teach them how money works. And you can see this in the scriptures. Jesus tells us the parable of the talents, and he talks about one multiplying it, another one actually multiplying, another buries it. He doesn't even charge interest. So we see this pattern of interest in the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's not anything new to American economy. And so financial stress is a very difficult thing. So I'm asking you to stay engaged today and in the coming weeks. Today we're just going to you can't fix it all today, but I'm hoping you'll sign up for the opportunity to grow in your finances in January. But I want you to stay engaged, open your heart, because I want to see you no longer saying, what am I going to do if my tires go out? What am I going to do if my car has an issue? I want to see you be able to pay cash for it to be fixed. I want to see you be able to pay cash for your next car or something you want or something you need. I want to see you be able to help other people in need without feeling like it's overwhelming you. When you talk about a vacation, I don't want you to have to go, can we afford to go on a vacation? Where are we going to find the money? I want you to be able to say, are we going to the beach or are we going to the mountains? It's a different mindset. I want you to feel like you can give generously. Some of you feel like you can't trust God because you're slave to the lender. This is both practical today and it's spiritual today. But if we can live with integrity with what God has entrusted to us, He says, if you're faithful in the little things, you'll be given much. I am not the pastor who's going to tell you if you give God $10, He's going to give you $100. That's not what I'm saying. God already gave you all that you have. He owns it all anyway, but there is an element, more joy, more peace, more depth in your relationships when you understand how to live generously. So, I'm not going to give you 3 pointers. I'll give you some thoughts, some practical things, but I want to give you 3 prayers that I want you to pray. As you read that book we talked about and answer that question in that book, I want to give you 3 prayers that I want you to begin praying this week. Here it is. Number 1, God, give me self-control. God, give me self-control. In our house, we have 4 rules. That's it, not 81 rules, because I can't remember 81 rules. Some of y'all, your kids are crazy because you can't remember all the rules you told them. We have 4 rules. They're character rules. We want to discipline your heart, and when your heart has good character, your behavior follows. What you believe determines how you behave. And so we have 4 rules: respect, Honest always, obey the first time, self-control. That's it. I'm sure we'll get emails and ask about those 4 rules. We'll be happy to send those to you. Respect, honest always, obey the first time, self-control. So if you're jumping on the bed and the bed breaks, you didn't have self-control and you disrespected your mom's furniture. Right? So it's easy to qualify these things. So self-control, though, is the one that we constantly beat into our kids' head. Because this thing right here absolutely destroys. This is how we get into trouble, isn't it? One moment of not having self-control leads to a second and a third, and before you know it, this applies to every area of our life, doesn't it? I mean, you can go to your eating habits, your exercise, whether you're getting out of bed and actually going to work on time. All this is rooted in self-control and self-discipline. And I love what Proverbs 25:28 says. Like a city whose walls are broken down is a person who lacks self-control. Like a city who lies in ruins, very vulnerable state, isn't it? A city whose walls would have been broken down in that time would have been very vulnerable to outside attack and had no way to defend themselves. And what the writer of Proverbs is telling us is this: listen, you have to understand when you have no self-control, you're vulnerable to the enemy in your life, the enemy's tactics in your life. And so we all have to admit, like, what level of vulnerability have we given the enemy because of our own lack of self-control? And so all of us, you know this, I know this, we all have a 2-year-old kid inside of us, don't we? And that 2-year-old kid comes out when we don't get our way, something goes wrong, during an election season, whatever. 2-year-old kid comes out because you know this, one of the first words kids say, you don't teach them this, no is one of them, and the other one is mine. Mine? So where did you work to pay for that, right? Where does the kid learn? Mine. Like, quick, if they ever, mine. Like, I promise you we didn't go over that in like the 2-year-old class. Like, this is what mine means. But somehow and all of us is like, mine. I want more, more, more. And you've seen those kids that'll just keep taking everybody's toys and say, mine. Some kids go to a birthday party and still be like, my gift, right? Not yours. And so, ladies, let's talk about you for a second. I'm going to tread on some thin ice here. Not that I haven't been doing that already all day. The clearance rack, ladies. It's not a money saver. Unless, of course, you needed it before you saw it on clearance. We got the Walmart app, and they keep springing these Black Friday things. Now it's Black November, right? Like, it's just, everything's like cheaper, and they're like, buy, and you're like, oh, yeah, I think I needed that, right? How many times during COVID did y'all get an Amazon package y'all did not need? Y'all just bored and be like, swipe, buy now, right? And so ladies, you go and you go, oh, I got this off the clearance rack. I saved $25. You're like, how much did you spend? $40. So you didn't save nothing. No, but I saved because it would have been. But were you going to buy it anyway? Well, no, but I saved. But you also don't have pants to match it, earrings to match it, and now you need new shoes and a new belt, which is another $100, right? And so now this idea, the clearance rack costs you money, costs you your retirement, right? Men, we don't do it that way, do we? Y'all do it. Y'all just blow it all up at once. I bought a boat. Now we just gonna buy the lake house to go with it. It's like, honey, we don't live anywhere near a lake. I don't care. I got a boat. And so Julie and I began in our 20s. After being married, I got 21 when I got married, and about 22 and a half, started on a journey to becoming debt-free. So we got married, and we realized the first year of our marriage, she had a wreck, and you know how it is when you total a car, you get 70% of its value, and we're like, we'll use that as an excuse to get a better car, because that's what you do in America. Lose money on the first one, buy a more expensive one, right? And so we had a car payment, $268 a month. You're like, man, I wish my car payment was that cheap. I heard it over here. And so we had a car, and then we had a couple other things because we tried to live at the same level my parents and her parents were living at, but they've been married for 30 years. They've been saving. So we're approaching $30,000 in debt our first 2 years of marriage. Because what everybody did. Everybody had a car payment. I was taught, you always have a car payment. And so we said, we're going to get out of debt. And heard a man by the name of Dave Ramsey. You love him or hate him. The principles changed my life. And so I remember saying, all right, baby, we're going on a spending freeze. And when I say freeze, like we sent our money to Antarctica. Like we said, no, don't touch it. Like, you can't, even an Instapot wouldn't have got that thing thought out. You know, like we said, we ain't spending no money. Like, we went hardcore, money in envelopes, paying cash. And then Julie last week, she said it was hard at times. She wanted to kill me at times. But I'm like, she's like, we making all this money, but can't spend none of it, you know? And I said, yeah. So we were paying on that $268 car a month. We were paying $1,100 a month. Because we were serious. We quit eating out. Only time we'd eat out, we ate out once a week. And we'd go by the Burger King about a mile from our house, and they had the 2 bacon cheeseburgers with fries and a drink, and it was $4.99, so $5.35 with tax. And we would split it. I know my cholesterol was rising, but my debt was dropping, all right? So it was once a week, that was it. And we said, we're not doing it because we are, and there were 2 weaknesses we had. Eating out. Come on, if you calculate how much money y'all spend eating out, you're going to slap yourself. And the other one, parents, let me just speak to you for a second. Quit having your kids run around with them fundraiser cards. Ask them, go ask Pastor Carl, he'll buy one. I probably would now. Don't send your kid. Like now, but used to, I'd be like, I'm sorry, man, I ain't got no money. And the kid would just look at me. But you drove a car here. Well, I ain't got no money. Tell your mama I ain't got no money. Tell her I ain't got no money. Tell her we're on a spending freeze, son. Spending freeze. She'll explain that when you get over. Spending, we can't buy that. I don't even eat Pizza Hut, so take that with you. That was my weakness, right? It was so hard not to be like, okay. I would tell a 5-year-old no in a heartbeat when I was on a spending freeze. Now you can't tell your 12-year-old no on an iPhone. I'm just, let's keep going, okay? Jeez, we're going. So one day we were by the Burger King at the red light, and I was sitting there, and I looked out the window. I've told the story numerous times. And I said, Julie, there's money on the side of the road. She's like, no, you're hallucinating. I was like, no, get out and get it. She's like, I'm not getting out. And if you know her, she ain't getting it. So I just put it in park, put the flashers on. I walk around the car, and I'm like, it was like the crispest $20 bill you've ever seen in your life. So I'm looking around and where's the rest of it, you know? That night we went out and we split a steak. I'm just saying, first time we've been out in like a year. Well, we want to spend and freeze, y'all. We paid that car off in 9 months. We paid all our debt off in 16 months. And we lived debt-free because we got to this point where we said we will learn to say no for a little while so we can say yes for the rest of our lives. Let me take a detour here. Y'all go ahead and clap because y'all ain't going to clap for this one. Y'all might. Let me take a detour here. If you are single, trying to mingle, this applies to you. Keep your clothes on now. Say no now so you can get married and say yes the rest of your life, all right? You say, how did we get there? I don't know, but we did. We're going back to the money thing here in a second. All right? You have a better marriage. And you won't carry the pain from it. And so $5 lattes can add up quick, right? You're like, this is all over the map. Politics, money, and sex, all in the same sermon. It's America. And ladies, we go get our nails done. I got to get my nails done. Guys, have we ever been like, oh, those nails are beautiful? We've never done that. I mean, nobody's like, oh, she must have had her nails done. We don't notice that. You don't need it done. Just file them down. Some paint from the garage, something. I mean, whatever. Eating out, paying for your kids' stuff. Listen, Christmas is coming up. Blame it on COVID, all right? This year, we're not buying gifts for anybody. COVID. Start a new family tradition. But you have to buy for all the kids. No, you don't. No, you don't. You know how many people I buy for in my family? Sometimes. You know, it's like, depends on, but you don't have to. You're like, well, we normally spend this much. Cut in half this year. COVID. Just blame it on COVID. Because we're going to live like no one else today, so one day you can live and give like no one else. And so Julie and I bought those gifts for you, those books, because we want to invest in you. 15 years ago, I didn't have the money to buy those books. We wanted to invest in you because we believe in you. So we went crazy on this thing. We paid off all our debt by our mid-20s. And then about 3 years later, God said, I want you to start a church. We had a very successful business after that because we had money to actually invest into a business. And we were able to move to Georgia without a job, without a place of employment, without a place to live, and live on our reserves and plant a church debt-free. Relevant Church would not have been where it is, but by the grace of God of us getting out of debt and being able not to have to worry about where our next paycheck was coming from. So, God, give me self-control. Number 2, God, give me understanding. Give me understanding. I love what Hosea said, and you can apply this to so many areas of your life. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. A lack of knowledge. We don't teach our kids. My 8th grader is he's in a financial class now in 8th grade, learning how money works. I love it because I'm seeing where he's Googled like, what is a dividend? I'm like, yes, he gonna be rich one day. So like I want versus like funny YouTube video. You know, it's like which one's gonna add more value to his life? And so generally people ask how much down and how much a month, not how much does it cost. So compound interest can work for you or it can work against you. I'm going to go back and look at the chart here in a minute. So Joe, at 25 years old, let's suppose Joe decided that he was not going to buy the truck. All right? But he took his truck payment and he paid himself $635.50. And he invested it, that's the payment, remember? He invested it into a index fund, a growth stock mutual fund that was yielding 12%. Let's hang on. You say, where are you going to get 12%? Okay. So index funds, growth stock mutual funds, even in the downturn of the economy in 2006-07, with September 11th, with the stock market crash, over the course of the history, have averaged 11%, even with all the down years. All right? And we don't have those tragic years in every generation. We've had a couple in the last 20 years. So if he invested for 7 years at 12%, pays himself into some sort of interest-bearing mutual fund or index fund, look at what he has at the end of his 7 years. I hope you like the truck. Because the truck didn't cost you $36,000. It cost you $86,000. Right? Now hang on, it gets worse, depending on which side of the aisle you're on. Let's roll to the next chart. Now, Joe's 32 years old. He has $86,000, right? Let's say that he leaves that $86,000 for 33 more years at 12% and doesn't touch it, doesn't do anything else, just leaves it. If the interest compounds annually, not weekly, not monthly, annually, at 65 years old, this is how much Joe has because he didn't buy the truck. Some of you are like, I bought the truck. Start where you are. Let me give you some more numbers. Average credit card debt in America is between, depending on when you look at it, after Christmas it'll be more, but $16,000. That's $320 a month on average, depending on your interest rates, for about 100 months or 8 1/3 years. And if you pay that off in 8 1/3 years and don't borrow any other money, that $16,000 has cost you approximately $32,000. Hope you like the new shoes and the Christmas presents, right? But if you invested that same $320 a month for the same amount of time, listen, 30 years from then, after you take that 8 1/3 years, 30 years from that point, if you just invested the $320 in the same, you'd have $700,000. If you continue to do that for 40 years, that same $320 a month, you'll be worth $3.3 million. And we're like, where, what? We don't teach our kids this stuff. We do what culture's always taught us. And so we're saying, God, help me to have self-control. Give me understanding. And number 3, God, give me a plan. Give me a plan. Those who fail to plan to fail. You ever heard that? It's cheesy, but it's true. So like, I want to change the family tree. And look, some of you are like, all right, I'm not ever going to be rich. I mean, you know what I mean by American standards. Worldly standards, you are very rich if you live in America. Some of you say, I'm never going to have millions of dollars. Well, then get out of debt and don't leave it for your kids. Start where you are and do the best you can with what you have. I heard a story just recently of a lady in our church. COVID hit, and business closed, lost the job. And she decided she's going to hustle. She's going to find a way. She ain't going to sit back and be a victim. She started going to estate sales and buying furniture and refinishing furniture. And in her first month, she made $3,000. Because you can work it, or it can work you. Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. You know, you can mistake your way into debt, but you will never stumble out of it. This is why you can win the lottery and win $36 million and be bankrupt 5 years later. Happens all the time. So let me give you 3 basic baby steps. You can learn more in the financial class that we'll be talking about, financial experience that we'll be having in January, and we can even send you some resources prior to then if you'll email the office. But number 1, get yourself a $1,000 emergency fund in the bank. If you had a $700 expense next week, would you have to put it on plastic? Get you a $1,000 emergency fund. Then pay off all your debt using what we call the debt snowball. That means I got 10 debts. I'm going to pay minimum payments on all of them except the smallest one. It's $30. But I got $300 a month extra. I'm going to take $300 and put it with the $30. I'm going to pay $330 on that first one. And then I'm going to pay that one off in 4 months, and then I'm going to roll that $330 to the next one. And then I'm going to keep rolling it, and you'll find that most of you can be out of debt in less than 24 months. Some maybe longer, some shorter. And then, after that, before we even get to this, some of you are investing in retirement now. I'm making this as a general statement. This is not financial advice, so don't send me your hate mail. But some of you need to quit paying into your retirement and get your debt done and then reinvest into your retirement because you'll be better off financially. Just run the numbers. But I'm getting 3%. But you're paying 12%. Let's get that off the books and get that taken care of and then invest. And so then you start adding 3 to 6 months worth of expenses into an emergency fund. That means if you got $5,000 a month in expenses, that means minimum $15,000, preferably $30,000 worth of expenses. Now let me just pause. Most people were affected by COVID in some way or another. Pretty tragic season of people's lives. How much would this have helped if everybody, every Christian, every believer had this? It takes time. So then we'll talk about investing and planning for the future with retirement and all those things, paying off your house. But I've met people with $26,000 a year incomes that have paid off on a debt snowball, manage their income, learn to tithe, learn to help others, learn to be generous because they understood this passage. Better is 1 handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil chasing after the wind. Less is more. Stress is bad. Giving is good because tomorrow matters. So here's what I want to do. It's been a tough year for some. We've laughed. I don't ever want you to walk away from here feeling like, oh, I'm dumb, or I made mistakes, or I should have changed. We've all done this. So I share my story to hopefully give you inspiration, whether you're 25 or 55. It doesn't matter. I want to encourage you. You can do this. You can click the QR code on the back of the chair. You can sign up for the experience, the financial experience in January, teach you more about how money works from a biblical perspective, and then get you on a plan to financial wholeness. And if you want forms in the meantime, you can email the office. We'll be happy to send those to you or help you in any way we can. But you have to make the decision to live like no one else. Say no today so one day you can live like no one else. And you can say yes to the rest of your life. Would you stand with me? I want to pray over you. And then we're just going to sing the song we sang earlier as the sign, God, wherever you lead me, I'll follow. So take this journey with us toward financial health and prosperity and honoring God with what he's blessed us with. Father, I pray right now for families who are struggling that you give strength, peace, and encouragement during this season. Let them know you love them and they can fight this battle with your help, and they're not in over their heads in a way that they think, but God, that you would give them the courage to tackle this debt in this season. And Lord, that we learn to be generous and we learn to be healthy in every area of our finances. In Jesus' name.